Well, it has been a very busy Thursday as we wait on more election results to come out from the 2020 presidential election. We see that Joe Biden is closing in on Donald Trump in Georgia and Pennsylvania. We see the battleground state results are heating up. The contest is heating up. We're looking at the incredible shrinking president because his lead continues to shrink. He's going to be overtaken, it looks like, in Georgia. The last I saw, the lead that Donald Trump had in Georgia was 1,797 votes. And I was preparing the show tonight. I was listening to Charlie Daniels. The devil went down to Georgia. So I ain't gonna make a joke about that, but that's what I was listening to. I was watching it on YouTube. So, I've got Georgia on my mind. I need to head back down to Atlanta when coronavirus blows over. I haven't been anywhere since February 3rd when I spoke in Chicago. That's the last time I traveled. I ain't going nowhere. Okay, coronavirus is real. All right, so on tonight's show, we're going to give you an update on what's going on with the battleground states. We see Joe Biden is at 253 electoral college votes. Donald Trump is at 214. We know that Arizona was called for Joe Biden by the Associated Press, 2:50 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I was on the Associated Press website. I get their email up. I get their morning emails, their morning newsletter each morning. I read that. And the Associated Press explained why they called the race Wednesday, November 4th, 2:50 a.m. for Joe Biden. They have an update and said they're continuing to look at the race, continue to monitor the race as well, because Donald Trump is closing in on Joe Biden's lead. It's not clear that Trump will be able to overtake Biden in Arizona. However, Arizona, Joe Biden is still ahead by 11,000 in Nevada. That's 6 electoral college votes. But Pennsylvania, now the lieutenant governor of Pennsylvania was interviewed on MSNBC this morning, and he said that he expects, at least this morning, he said he expected Joe Biden to win Pennsylvania based upon their predictive modeling by about 100,000 votes. I saw reporting from NBC News earlier today that it's estimated that Joe Biden will win Pennsylvania by 80,000 to 100,000 votes. That was reporting this morning. We'll see. We see as more votes come in from Philadelphia, mail-in ballots from Philadelphia. Joe Biden is eroding deep. Consequence, your vote. Okay, I know people want to make you think your vote doesn't matter. Usually, they want to build up their social media platform. They want to increase their following, so they engage in this voter depression campaign that we've talked about here on the show. But if your vote didn't matter, why do people work so hard to suppress the African American vote? If your vote didn't matter, people work so hard to suppress the African American. Donald Trump today, this evening, okay, and I knew he was going to hold a press conference. I purposely didn't watch that BS. I don't have time for that. As much money as I'm paying the Comcast, I don't want to see that nonsense on my TV. So, so I read about it. We posted about it. He threw this temper tantrum, and he implied that the election in Pennsylvania and being stolen in Detroit, okay, in Michigan, especially Detroit. He implied that they're criminals, things like this. Hold on, dude. Wait a second, man. You were indicted. I mean, so you're unindicted co-conspirator number one. You were impeached in the U.S. House of Representatives. Okay, Michael Cohen testified in front of Congress, okay, that you were writing checks to him to reimburse him for the $130,000 he paid Stormy Daniels to keep quiet about the affair that she had with you, and the hush money was paid to Stormy 2 months before the president's campaign fraud. That is a felony. Produce documentation that you in while you're in the White House. It's very criminal. What this you wait listening to you. All right. So we're going to deal with all that tonight's show. Then we see U.S. Postal Service talk about criminal. Okay. We see the reporting from the Washington Post that the U.S. Postal Service processed 150,000 ballots after Election Day. U.S. Postal Service processed 150,000 ballots after Election Day, jeopardizing thousands of votes. This is a breaking news story from the Washington Post this evening, November 5th, 2020. Also, we see that on the November 3rd election, voters around the country approved local police reform. Voters around the country approved local police reform measures. NBCnews.com is reporting about that. We'll talk about that as well. We talked about that a little bit on our show last night. Now, you know, we're here 6 days a week now. Okay. Monday through Friday, 11 p.m. to 12 midnight. Monday through Friday, 11 p.m. to 12 midnight. And we're still on Sundays, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the African History Network show. And then we know the unemployment numbers come out every Thursday morning, 8:30 a.m. from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the Labor Department. We see that 751,000 people filed for first-time unemployment benefits last week. Donald Trump's talking about remember back in, what was it, June? It was either May or June. Little Jared Kushner, he went to Jared. Okay, little Jared Kushner, the poster boy of white privilege, who just a couple weeks ago for Donald Trump's policies to work, African Americans have to want to succeed. Really? Okay. Well, we succeeded. We succeeded in evicting his ass out the White House, and you with him. Okay. How about that? Little Jared Kushner. But I was thinking about this article here about Jared from Washington Post. But we see 150,000 ballots processed by the U.S. Postal Service after Election Day. We'll talk about that. Then 751,000 people filed for unemployment. Unemployment numbers come out every Thursday morning, 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then the Washington Post had this story from today. Now, you got to follow us on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network, and my YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, IMHOTEP. Okay? Because we post articles all throughout the day. Washington Post had this story that I saw. Management company owned by Jared Kushner files to evict hundreds of families as moratoriums expire. Management company owned by Jared Kushner to families as moratoriums expire. House advice company, Westminster, and other land remove tenants rent during this pandemic fault, Jared, as well as law. Fair is Vanity Fair on the Trump of corona made it clear the needed. They in general they weren't going to get that support. So why is your company evicting them that are behind on rent? And the moratoriums have expired, but also the $600 a week in federal unemployment insurance has expired as well. Okay, so let me see here. There was one. We'll pull up this article. Oh yeah, this one right here. This was the big one from Vanity Fair from July 30th, 2020. Now, it's interesting. This came out the day before the unemployment, the $600 a week unemployment insurance from the federal government, that expired July 31st, 2020. And Moscow Mitch McConnell and Republicans in the Senate did not come out with a bill. They did not come out with a bill to come to an agreement with the $3.4 trillion HEROES Act that Democrats in the House of Representatives passed in May 2020 to avoid this July 31st cliff, right? How Jared Kushner's secret testing plan went poof in the air. This is a huge expose from Vanity Fair exposing what happened July 30th, July 30th, 2020. This spring, a team working under the president's son-in-law produced a plan for an aggressive, coordinated national COVID-19 response that could have brought the pandemic under control. So why did the White House spike it in favor of a shambolic response? Okay, go read this expose from Vanity Fair. All right, now this is the same guy, the poster boy white privilege, the same guy that owes Deutsche Bank $285 million, and ain't no way in the hell no Negro could get a security clearance, a high-level security clearance, working in the White House, if he owed Visa $100,000, and this dude owes Deutsche Bank $185. And when they somebody overrode their Vanity Fair. We'll on a forecast. Kushner's secret testing plan poof. Okay. Okay. In the government, when you have this is what's taking place. Speak coronavirus, the numbers on corona US set a record. I told you around that corner is more cases and more deaths. It ain't getting better, it's getting worse. A record number of coronavirus cases were reported Thursday, breaking a record set Wednesday of more than 100,000 cases in a single day. It was 104,000 on Wednesday, November 4th. On Thursday, November 5th, is 120,000 new cases. And this fool sitting up here in denial. And you got this incompetent son-in-law who's the poster boy white privilege mishandling coronavirus. Remember back in, what was it, May or June? He said around July, the economy is going to be rocking again. You feel anything rocking? Dude, you still got over 700,000 people a week filing for unemployment insurance. I warn people, 2016, some people want to stay home. Other people want to vote for white supremacy. Okay. A total of 120,048 people tested positive for COVID-19 on Thursday, nearly 16,000 more than on Wednesday, according to an NBC News tally. The United States number of coronavirus cases and deaths in the world. The United States has the highest number of coronavirus cases and deaths in the world because they got the most incompetent leader. They have the most incompetent leadership. You got the Three Stooges and you have the Three Stooges and the Little Rascals running the government. This is what we're dealing with. Okay, we're coming up here on a break in just a minute, in a couple minutes here. Calling numbers 313-778-7600. 313-778-7600 is the calling number if you have a question or comment. See, I'm so hyped. I haven't even done my introduction yet. If you like this type of information, you could donate to the African History Network. $ the AHN Show through Cash App. $ the AHN Show through Cash App, and through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN Show, paypal.me/the AHN Show, and at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. I've been waiting all day for this show. Okay. On the African History Network show, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right knowledge corrects wrong behavior. What you do for yourself, what you do to yourself, and what you allow other people to keep doing to you over and over and over again, and your taxpayer dollars pay for it, is based upon what you think about yourself. What you think about yourself is based upon what you've been taught about yourself. What you've been taught about yourself is based upon everything you read, heard, and seen about yourself. Now, we deal with a number of different topics here on the African History Network show. We deal with current events, history, politics, economic empowerment, entrepreneurship, relationships, love, sex, health issues, and sex, and much, much more. We're going to talk about sex soon because we on late at night, so we can talk about that. I need to bring on Kenya K. Stevens or somebody. Sign up for our email newsletter. Text the word Kemet, K-E-M-E-T, to 22828 to sign up for our email newsletter. Text the word Kemet, K-E-M-E-T, to 22828 to sign up for our email newsletter. We're coming up on a break. We'll be back in a few minutes. Listen to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM, the Superstation WFDF in Detroit. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. Stand by, everybody. We're on a 3-minute commercial break. How's everybody doing? Share this broadcast on your Facebook page. We have a jam-packed show planned for tonight. We're going to give updates on what's going on. You're not going to get a lot of this type of information other places. I'll be on Roland Martin Unfiltered again on Friday. I'm on the panel every Friday. Roland Martin Unfiltered. How's everybody doing? Okay, you can advertise with the African History Network. Email us at customerservice@africanhistorynetwork.com. Customerservice@africanhistorynetwork.com. To advertise with the African History Network. We have a few new advertisers. So the Black History One-on-One Mobile Museum is scheduling people for in-person and virtual exhibits. The founder of the Black History One-on-One Mobile Museum is Dr. Khalid El Hakim. For 25 years, the Black History One-on-One Mobile Museum has carried on the rich legacy of the museum movement, of the Black Museum movement in America, by showcasing original artifacts of the Black experience at colleges, universities, K-12 schools, corporations, libraries, conferences, cultural events, making it the most diverse Black history mobile exhibit in American history. Visit their website, blackhistorymobilemuseum.com, blackhistorymobilemuseum.com, or give them a call, 313-645-4197, 313-645-4197. Now, a lot of people want to invest in the stock market. We see the market is increasing because the investors think that Biden is going to win. Theprofitroom.com can help you if you want to learn about investing in the stock market. They are a trading and education company, theprofitroom.com. They are a trading and education company, and they specialize in day trading and one-on-one mentorship programs that are designed for beginners. They teach individuals how to create generational wealth through trading and investing in financial markets. Visit their website, theprofitroom.com, Profit, theprofitroom.com, and let them know you found out about this from the African History Network. Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM, the Superstation, the Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Thursday, May 5th, 2020, and we are live. Hope everybody's doing well. Those watching us on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network, and our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, IMHOTEP. Everybody, shout out to everybody watching us, and on 910 AM Superstation's Facebook fan page as well. And then also those listening on the iHeartRadio app. You can listen to me on iHeartRadio. You can listen to the African History Network show live on iHeartRadio. And then our shows are podcasted. I podcast our shows in audio podcast format on 9 different audio podcast platforms. So you can search for the African History Network show wherever you get your podcast from, including iHeartRadio, Castbox, Stitcher, iTunes, FM Player. And you can listen to audio podcasts of the African History Network show as well. We're all over the place. We are ubiquitous. Okay. All right. So let's continue. 313-778-7600 is the call-in number. If you have a question or comment, 313-778-7600 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. So let's look at a quick update what's going on today. And I was telling everybody watching during the break, I'll be back on Roland Martin Unfiltered on Friday, November 6th. I'm a panelist every Friday on Roland Martin Unfiltered. So Friday's a busy day because I do Roland Show 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Then we're back here 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the African History Network show. Okay, it's a busy day. All right, so let's look at an update on what's going on with the presidential race. We'll look at the updates from Washington Post. Donald Trump, as lead narrows and counts in Pennsylvania and Georgia, repeats baseless claims of fraud. It's just pathetic. It's just pathetic. He got his attorneys out there. I hope he's paying his legal bills, because you're gonna need the money for legal bills after you get kicked out the White House, because the indictments are coming. All right, now Pennsylvania Secretary of State said the Commonwealth's winner could be known as soon as today or tonight. And if Joe Biden captures the state, he would win the presidency. He would be at 273 electoral college votes, and the fat woman and the skinny woman and the plump woman will be singing. Okay. Counting continues in Alaska, Arizona, Georgia, Nevada, and North Carolina. So when whoever reaches 270 electoral college votes first becomes president-elect, but they still keep counting. They don't stop counting. Okay, just so everybody knows, everybody's vote will be counted. Now, Donald Trump and his allies met with two immediate defeats in court today in Georgia and Michigan as they press unsubstantiated claims of fraud as officials count ballots. Now, when we look at update on what's going on in Georgia, Donald Trump's lead in the vote count in Georgia slipped to under 1,800. It was actually 1,797 votes at 10:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Just over 14,000 votes were left to be counted, and about 8,900 requested overseas and military ballots have till Friday to arrive. Now, in Pennsylvania, the great state of Pennsylvania, Donald Trump's lead in the count dropped to about 26,000 votes as of 10:50 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Joe Biden is closing in on him. Donald Trump, out of about 26 Democratic candidates, Joe Biden was the one Donald Trump feared the most. Because Donald Trump knew Joe Biden could go talk to those old white people that voted for President Obama in 2008, 2012, then voted for Trump. And he knows Joe Biden could go talk to those old white people that voted for Trump in 2016 and maybe didn't even vote in 2008 and 2012. And he knew he could go get those votes. This is what I was saying. It's like, you remember back in June 2020, go back and watch the video. Go back and watch my show from June of 2020 when I broke down the comments that Joe Biden made about working in the Senate with senators he disagreed with, and the two senators he was talking about, Senator James Eastland of Mississippi, known as the mouth of the White South, and Senator Herman Talmadge of Georgia, and these two guys were segregationists, okay? And people were talking about segregationists and the term boy, and I went through and took you step by step through what was actually said and how the media was misrepresenting what was said, and how people I like Reverend Al Sharpton, but what Reverend Al Sharpton was saying was wrong. What Cory Booker was saying was wrong. Then Reverend Al Sharpton interviewed Joe Biden face-to-face on MSNBC. It was about June 30th, 2020. Joe Biden laid out everything. See, here's what happened. Joe Biden, what nobody wanted to say was the two segregationists Joe Biden was talking about working with were Democrats. These were two Gold Research Senator James Eastland of Mississippi. There's a picture of Senator James Eastland sitting in his Senate office with the Confederate battle flag behind him. Senator James Eastland was the chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee when Joe Biden becomes a senator. If you want to get anything done on the Senate Judiciary Committee, you got to work with the chairman. Just like some of you all have managers or team leaders or department heads at your job that are Trump supporters, you can't stand them, but you got to work with them to get the job done, to get your expense report signed off on, to get your time card signed off on, or whatever. So what he was explaining was being able to work with people that you disagree with and get the job done. But he also talked about defeating them as well. Okay. So so it was two words people picked out of the whole conversation: segregationist and boy. So when Joe Biden said they call me son, not boy, what he was talking about, when you listen to the full story, and he explained this to Reverend Al Sharpton June 30th, 2019. And then a few days later on Politics Nation, Reverend Al Sharpton interviewed Representative Cedric Richmond of Louisiana, who's a member of the Congressional Black Caucus, who's Joe Biden's co-chair. And he went through and explained all this as well. Here's what most people left out. Joe Biden and Senator Ted Kennedy were two young senators at the time. The old guys in the Senate thought they were too young to be called senator. So he was saying they call me son and they call him boy. The boy he was talking about wasn't segregationists calling black men boys, as people misunderstood. No, they called Senator Ted Kennedy another white man boy, because what he was saying was they thought we were too young to be in the Senate, so they didn't call us senator. They called me son and they call him boy. That's what all that was about. So if you go through and watch my show from like June and July, I take you step by step. We play the interview that Biden did. We look at the comments from Politico and take you step by step through what was actually said, and then how it was misrepresented in the media. And I like MSNBC, but I had to call out Tiffany Cross. I had to call out Zelina Maxwell. I had to call out Dr. Jason Johnson, because 99.9% of the time, when they talked about what was said, they never said Biden was talking about working with Democrats. These are people in his own party. All that was just left out. So you gotta put all this stuff in context. You can't just pick words out of a conversation. Pick two words out of a conversation. You got to put all that in context so the people understand what's taking place. Okay, so in Pennsylvania, Donald Trump's lead in the count dropped to about 26,000 votes as of 10:50 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we'll do a refresh of the screen here to look at updates. I'm looking at live updates coming from courtesy of the Washington Post. In Pennsylvania, in Arizona, Biden's lead in the vote count narrowed to about 46,000 votes as of 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time Thursday. At least 293,000 ballots remain to be counted statewide. And then Maricopa County, the state's largest county, plans to update its counts at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time and 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Friday, November 6th. When we look at Nevada, according to the Secretary of State, there are 190,000 ballots to be counted. About 90% are from Clark County, home to Las Vegas. The next update on the count will be on noon on Friday, noon Eastern Standard Time on Friday, November 6th. Okay, so it's looking like it's expected that Joe Biden will hold on and win Nevada, based upon the votes coming from Clark County and the percentage of the votes that will be for Biden. And they're counting largely these votes that are being counted are mail-in ballots. So those skew heavily for Democrats. In North Carolina, election officials said they will review about 41,000 provisional ballots from voters whose eligibility may be questioned, along with around 110,000 outstanding absentee ballots. They expect to finalize their count by November 12th, November 12th, 2020. Biden is about 76,000 votes behind Trump in North Carolina. All right, so that's a quick update on what's going on. There with these battleground states. Let's see. Pennsylvania's top election official says most ballots to be counted by Friday, November 6th. All right. And let's do a quick refresh of the screen here. 313-778-7600 is the call-in number. If you have a question or comment, 313-778-7600 is the call-in number. If you have a question or comment. And, you know, I've said this before. I'll say it again. The way things are in America now, to be the old white man, you're going to need another old white man. I knew this from back April 25th when Joe Biden jumped in the race. I said, you know, I like Senator Kamala Harris, but I said the way things are now in this country, to be the old white man, you're going to need another old white man. Okay. So I already knew it. Okay. Let's see here. Let's look at some other quick updates. Let's see. Nevada GOP sends criminal referral alleging thousands of instances of voter fraud to Justice Department. And let's see if we let's look at this live update also. Let's see if we have this. Okay, I'm going to go back to that article also dealing with Jared Kushner. He went to Jared. Nevada GOP sends a criminal referral alleging thousands of instances of voter fraud to the Justice Department. The Nevada Republican Party on Thursday evening announced that it had sent a criminal referral to U.S. Attorney General William Barr. He better hope he doesn't get indicted after he leaves office, alleging that at least 3,062 people voted in Nevada after moving out of state. That sounds like the interstate cross-checking system. Research the interstate cross-checking system, and not 1.1 million people off the voter rolls in 2016 during the presidential election. The move came after a news conference earlier in the day at which party and Trump campaign officials claimed widespread fraud in Nevada without providing evidence. They claimed widespread fraud in Nevada without providing evidence. And it came just minutes after Donald Trump, speaking publicly for the first time since election night, baselessly attacked mail-in ballots as fraud-ridden. Baselessly attacked mail-in ballots as fraud-ridden. Now, the party's lawyers sent to Attorney General William Barr a list of voters identified by cross-checking voter registration names and addresses with the National Change of Address database. Nevada law allows residents to vote after moving out of state if they are serving in the military, married to someone in the military, or going to school. The American Civil Liberties Union of Nevada noted in a tweet Thursday that voters in the state do not lose their eligibility to vote when they leave the state temporarily. Okay, the American Civil Liberties Union of Nevada noted in a tweet Thursday that voters do not lose their eligibility to vote when they leave the state temporarily. Now, a spokesman for Clark County did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Earlier in the day, Joe Gloria, the county's registrar of voters, said in response to questions about potential voter fraud that he would investigate any incident reported to him. Quote, "We're firm in our commitment to make sure that we're processing ballots with high integrity," he said. Now, Justice Department officials speaking on the condition of anonymity to discuss a move that could produce an investigation confirmed that the department had received the referral and that officials were, quote, "looking into it." The official declined to provide further details. Okay, we'll go to the phone line in just a minute. 313-778-7600 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. 313-778-7600 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. Okay, so check this out. Check out the reporting from Washington Post. Also, look at the updates from NBCnews.com, okay, as well. NBC has live updates also. You can check that out as well. Okay, So I just want to look at these updates and see before we go to the phone line, just make sure we cover all of this here. And I'm refreshing my screen. So we're looking at things coming through live. Okay, small protests flare and tensions grow as ballot count continues. There was still some protesters in downtown Detroit outside the TCF Center today. And, they were out there yesterday, stop counting. Now, you had two main groups. You had people, Trump supporters, saying stop the count. And you had other people, and a lot of them white, who were saying continue counting, count every vote. Okay. We talked about this on yesterday's show. Small protests flare and tensions grow as ballot count continues. Various groups across the country pledged to continue protests outside ballot counting locations in Phoenix, Philadelphia, Las Vegas, Atlanta, and Detroit on Thursday as the final tallying of ballots continued in key states. Now, why don't you go out to your neighborhood? Why don't you go out to your local voting location or wherever they're tallying votes? Why don't you go out there and protest out there? Now, see, what's interesting is that Trump is saying in Arizona, keep counting in Arizona, but stop counting in Michigan. They're saying in certain places, keep counting, other places, stop counting. Make up your mind. Which one is it? This is why these lawsuits are frivolous. It's ridiculous. This is a man who knows he's losing, and he's afraid of going to prison when he leaves the White House. He's afraid of his taxes being exposed. He's afraid of being indicted. He's afraid of going to prison. Many of the demonstrations were spurred by conspiracy theories that centered on unfounded fears of fraud, including suggestions that Democrats are creating forged ballots for presidential candidate Joe Biden. The rumors have rapidly proliferated among right-wing social media users, fueled in part by baseless allegations from dumbass Donald Trump and his high-profile associates. This fool tweeted Thursday morning, stop the count, all capital letters, stop the count. Yeah, but you want them to keep counting in Arizona. You want them to keep counting in areas in certain states, but you want them to stop counting in other states. Okay, now military ballots could play a greater role in narrow state counts. Now, in most states, military ballots have 7 to 10 days or so, or in some cases longer than that, to come to be allowed to come in after election day. This is set by the state legislature. Okay, so this is all known up front. Votes cast by so these ain't this is not fraud, Donald Trump. Okay. Y'all knew this ahead of time. Votes cast by military personnel could assume greater importance as the race between Trump and Biden narrowed to a handful of battleground states that accept service members' ballots after election day. Authorities in Georgia, North Carolina, Nevada, Arizona, Pennsylvania, and Alaska continued to count ballots and wait for others yet to arrive, including those cast by uniformed troops and their families stationed away from their homes. Now, you're going to try to say that people in the military, their ballots shouldn't count? Is that the argument you're going to make? Why you call them suckers and losers? Those that are risking their lives and things like this? You going to say that their ballots don't count? Is that how you want to do this? Let's go to the phone lines. Let's go to John. John, welcome to the African History Network show. Thanks for holding. Tell us where you're calling from, John.
Thank you. I'm calling from the Detroit. I'm calling from East Side. Thank you, Hotep. I wonder if he don't remember what he really said about the military services, the men and women in service.
According to Donald Trump, he has one of the world. According to Donald Trump, he has one of the world's greatest memories, but it doesn't seem like that sometimes. But go ahead.
Yeah, well, I hear you loud and clear. I want to ask you, first of all, where is oh my God, you call her name earlier? You had to check her about Joe Biden. I forgot it.
Jared Kushner?
What do you mean? No, no, the young lady that used to be on Reverend Show.
Oh, Tiffany Cross.
Tiffany. Yeah,
I know she's a fellow. I know she's a fellow at Harvard University. I think she's still with the Beat DC, the newsletter. I see her a little bit on MSNBC, not as much as before. I think she's busy. I know she used to be on Reverend Al Sharpton's show, Keeping It Real, every Tuesday, but she's not on Tuesdays now. So I sometimes I talk to her every now and then on Twitter. I need to check and see what's going on with her.
Yeah, because I thought she was very, very polite and she was very knowledgeable. But she did get that wrong.
In general.
Who is this clown come to Detroit, raise his hands with this ridiculous truck, telling him to come in and protest and file some type of suit? The judge was outrageous by him coming in there with that trash he had. And so forth.
You talking about the lawsuit? You talking about the lawsuit here in Michigan? Yeah, that was thrown out. That's a frivolous lawsuit that was thrown out. These are the Trump. These are all distractions, man. It's like, okay, man, go ahead with your little lawsuits, all this stuff. I ain't even focusing. I'm not focused on that. All right.
Well, okay, and the client went on the website from Texas. Put that garbage on the website, and then later on today they called him a big lie. He called and said that he was wrong. He apologized to him. People.
What are you talking about, John? What are you talking? What are you talking about?
Some character put a big lie up on the thing about the tax by Detroit voters, and they was committing fraud, and they wanted the people to see.
Well, but that's what Trump said. Trump said that he said that about Detroit and Philadelphia today. In his little press conference that he did. Yeah, but you know the real criminals in the White House. So
tell me about it, and I want to thank you and the knowledge and power, and you keep up the good work.
All right, John.
About Georgia, I like to hear from Georgia, man. Whoa, okay.
All right, John. Keep listening. Thanks for calling. All right. Okay, let's get to some of these other stories quickly here. We're going to continue on our social media platforms as we do usually. We usually go past an hour because I have so much information. So follow us on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network, and my YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, IMHOTEP on YouTube. You have a quick question or comment, 313-778-7600, 313-778-7600 is the calling number. We'll try to squeeze in another call before we're off the air here on 9:10 a.m. the Superstation WFDF in Detroit. Okay, judge denies Trump campaign bid to stop count in Philadelphia. Judge denies Trump campaign bid to stop count in Philadelphia. Okay, you want them to keep counting in Arizona, but in Philadelphia and in Detroit, where a lot of black people are, you want them to stop counting. A federal judge denied a request from Donald Trump's campaign to stop the vote count in Philadelphia on Thursday evening, instead brokering a deal for dozens of observers from each party to watch the process. Judge Paul S. Diamond said that the Republican and Democratic parties should each be allowed 60 representatives to observe ballots being counted by election workers. Should be allowed 60 representatives to 60 representatives each to observe ballots being counted by election workers. Quote, I don't understand entirely why this couldn't have been agreed to absent judicial intervention, Judge Paul S. Diamond said, after sharply criticizing the president's legal team through the hearing, because they're grandstanding. They know he's losing and they're just trying to file all these frivolous lawsuits just to appease him. The Trump campaign had asked Diamond to issue an emergency injunction to bar officials, quote, from continuing to count any ballots, end quote, alleging that all Republican observers were being illegally blocked from watching the count. But an attorney for Trump's campaign conceded during the hearing that they, in fact, had, quote, a non-zero number of people in the room, end quote, leaving Judge Diamond audibly exasperated. Judge Diamond remarked at one point that, quote, the whole thing is going to be moot, end quote, because counting in the state would likely soon be complete. Lawyers for Philadelphia denied that Republicans were being barred from the count, but said that one GOP representative was removed after refusing to abide by social distancing rules aimed at preventing the spread of coronavirus. You think you may want to prevent the spread of coronavirus? Just got this in from thehill.com. U.S. again breaks daily coronavirus record with 118,000 new cases. This just came in from thehill.com. The U.S. broke another record of daily coronavirus cases Thursday, November 5th, 2020, topping 118,000 new infections in the second straight day with more than 100,000 new cases. You think you may want to practice social distancing? Okay. Trump repeats vows of litigation, unsubstantiated claims of fraud. We talked about that already. You can read some of these updates from the Washington Post. Republican former U.S. attorney slammed Trump's calls to stop counting votes as clearly inappropriate. A new letter from 20 Republican former U.S. attorneys criticizes President Trump's premature, baseless, and reckless comments about the vote in Pennsylvania and elsewhere. They're not even buying this. They're Republicans that say, look, man, the jig is up. Okay. Let them go ahead and count. Okay. It is what it is. Isn't that what he said? 1,000 people die a day. It is what it is. Your ass about to lose. You're going to be evicted from the White House and the indictments are coming. It is what it is. Don't do the crime if you can't do the time. The letter labels Trump's claims of fraud and his threats to initiate litigation aimed at stopping the vote count as, quote, clearly inappropriate and having the potential to, quote, undermine the rule of law as it applies to our electoral process, end quote. Donald Trump don't give a damn about no laws. He acts like a mob boss. Okay. He's the first Russian president of the United States. He don't care about no laws. The group faults Trump's effort to claim victory before all votes are counted as, quote, imprudent and irresponsible, end quote. Check out the rest of this. We're going to post a link here to the reporting from the Washington Post. Their updates the presidential with the electoral with the election results and the counts. Okay, there was a good article from NBC News. We're going to continue this on our social media platforms. Also, we know we reported yesterday John James lost his senatorial race to Senator Gary Peters here in Michigan. Senator Gary Peters is a Democrat. John James is Republican, but in a lot of his commercials, he didn't want to tell you he was an African-American Republican. Okay, he didn't want to tell you he was a Republican. But Michigan GOP Senate candidate John James refuses to concede, alleging vote count irregularities. What irregularity was, you didn't get enough votes, dumbass. That's the irregularity. You didn't get enough votes. Democratic Senator Gary Peters gave a victory speech Thursday, a day after multiple news outlets declared he had won re-election to represent Michigan in the U.S. Senate. But his Republican challenger, businessman and veteran John James, is refusing to concede. Okay, you don't have to concede. All right. The James campaign has alleged without providing evidence. Now, this is the same dude who said he supports Donald Trump 2,000%. He's going with the bit. Donald Trump makes these allegations of fraud, doesn't provide any evidence, and John James makes these allegations of alleging vote count irregularities and doesn't provide any evidence. Then he's going with the bit. The James campaign has alleged without providing evidence that there were irregularities and deception in the vote counting process. In a statement Thursday, the candidate claimed he had, quote, deep concerns that millions of Michiganders may have been disenfranchised by a dishonest few who cheat. Man, get the hell out of here with this. All right. NBCnews.com had an article. We posted it on our fan page today. Voters around the U.S. approve local police reform measures. Voters around the U.S. approve local police reform measures. The results reflect a growing demand for greater law enforcement accountability after the death of George Floyd in Minneapolis. Now, we talked about this briefly yesterday on our show last night from the live updates from NBC News, and they have an article talking about this. There were 6 states that had police reform measures on the ballot. Okay, the November 3rd ballot. Voters in at least 6 states overwhelmingly approved police reform measures on election day, reflecting a growing demand for greater law enforcement accountability after the death of George Floyd, May 25th, 2020, in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Creating and strengthening police oversight boards, changing department staffing and funding levels, and allowing greater public access to body and dashboard camera recordings were among the measures approved by voters around the country. All this deals with legislation. All this deals with policies. Okay. And a lot of this ties to it may tie to the city charter. It may tie to the contracts that the police have, that the police officers have with the city. And those contracts are negotiated by the police union. It deals with ordinances there passed by city council and signed by a mayor. All this deals with policy. Okay, all this deals with laws. Creating and strengthening. This is what was on the different ballots. Creating and strengthening police oversight boards, changing department staffing and funding levels, and allowing greater public access to body and dashboard camera recordings were among the measures approved by voters around the country. Many of the reforms run along the lines of laws already passed in localities in other states, such as Massachusetts and New York, in response to widespread protests over racial injustice and police violence nationwide. Voters in nearly a dozen cities and counties in California, Texas, Oregon, and Ohio approved creating, overhauling, or strengthening police oversight boards. In Portland, Oregon, where police arrests have been ongoing since George Floyd's death in May 25th, 2020, over 80% of voters passed Measure 26-217, which amends the city's charter to create a police oversight committee that would have the power to investigate the use of deadly force and allegations of misconduct by officers. The committee would also have the power to discipline officers for wrongdoing. But you had to have this amendment to be able to, you had to have this on the ballot to then be able to change the city charter, which is like the constitution of the city. But you had to have read the damn city charter in the first place to understand that it needs to be changed. Politics is the legal distribution of scarce wealth, power, and resources, and the writing of laws, statutes, ordinances, amendments, and treaties, their adoption, interpretation, and enforcement. So you can't just protest in the streets. You got to put people in office and vote for measures, put people in office who will properly respond to your protest, and put measures in place that actually bring about and bring it to fruition what it is you're protesting about. All right, we're out of time here on 910 AM the Superstation. Follow us on our social media platforms. We're going to continue on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network, and my YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, IMHOTEP. We'll be back Friday. I'll be on Roland Martin Unfiltered, Friday, 6 p.m. And then we'll be back here, 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time as well. You can donate to the African History Network, $ the AHN Show through Cash App, $ the AHN Show through Cash App, and also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN Show, paypal.me/the AHN Show. This helps us keep doing the research, stay on the air, keep broadcasting. And we're here 6 nights a week now instead of 1 night a week. Okay, so we definitely appreciate the support. Visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. All my DVD lectures are there and digital downloads also. Remember, at the African History Network, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right now it's correct wrong behavior. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever. Stay tuned for Greg Davis, then Michael Baisden, and we'll talk to you tomorrow night. Peace. All right, stand by, everybody. Stand by. Let me disconnect this call. All right. Usually on Sunday nights, I'm usually at the radio station broadcasting, but because of COVID-19 executive orders from Governor Gretchen Whitmer, they have us broadcasting from home. So when things open back up, at least on Sunday nights, I'll be back. I'll be back in the radio station. I don't know exactly when that's going to be, but Monday through Friday, I'll still broadcast from home, unless maybe it's a big interview or something I want to do. I'll go into the studio. All right, let's continue. How's everybody doing? Hey, if you want to advertise with the African History Network, email us at customerservice@africanhistorynetwork.com, customer service at africanhistorynetwork.com, and African American business owners, post the name of your business here on the thread of the broadcast. Okay. And then you can email us at customer service at africanhistorynetwork.com, and we'll let you know how you can advertise on our daily show. Our Sunday night show is all sold out right now, but you can advertise on our daily show, and we create a video commercial for you also that airs when we rebroadcast these shows, and then you'll have a audio commercial that airs in our audio podcast that are on 9 different podcast platforms. Okay. All right. So let's continue here. So right before the break, we were talking about some of the initiatives that were on the ballots around the country, the November 3rd election dealing with police reform. NBCnews.com has this article: voters around the U.S. approve local police reform measures. All right. And so we're going to continue with this. Let's give a shout out to agency. We got Kevin, Deborah, look at everybody watching us on the social media platforms: Jackie, Sandy, Tanya, Lillette, just a few of the people watching us. Let's see who we have: Gregory, Greg Osborne, Cedric, Gregory, Offset. Calls me on my phone. People. Last protesters set up an autonomous zone. Protest an autonomous from police over the summer was a likely impetus in King County, Washington, to pass several reform measures, including establishing a civilian-led Office of Law Enforcement Oversight, a civilian-led Office of Law Enforcement Oversight, which would have legal authority and subpoena power to examine other misconduct. It was passed with more than 82% of the vote. This is why you can't, on the one hand, complain about police this, police that, police this, police that, then don't put these measures on the ballot to correct what's wrong, and then don't vote for the measure. That doesn't make sense. Now, some people just want to keep complaining and not do a damn thing. Okay. But if you actually want to bring about, if you actually want to correct these issues, okay, all the things that we complain about, the majority of things we complain about and protest against are the results of bad public policies, bad laws. Well, how did they come into existence? They were written by people who were either elected or put in place by people who were appointed by people who were elected. King County voters also approved a charter amendment that will require a special inquest into killings by law enforcement and mandate that a public attorney be provided to represent victims' families. Okay, this all deals with policy. Similar measures to approve independent oversight boards were passed in several California jurisdictions, including San Francisco, Oakland, and Sonoma County. San Diego voters approved Measure B. San Diego voters approved Measure B, creating an independent commission on police practices, an independent commission on police practices to investigate misconduct, complaints, and in-custody deaths using subpoenas. As votes continue to be counted on Wednesday, November 4th in Pennsylvania, voters in Philadelphia appear to be favoring the creation of a Citizens Police Oversight Committee, a Citizens Police Oversight Committee to replace its Police Advisory Commission. which has been heavily criticized for its ineffectiveness in police accountability. Also appearing, headed for approval in Philadelphia, was a proposal to add language to the city charter calling on the police department to, quote, eliminate the practice of unconstitutional stop and frisk consistent with judicial precedent. Also appearing headed for approval in Philadelphia was a proposal to add language to the city charter. Once again, a lot of this stuff, a lot of people doing all the protests and things like this, got to read the city charter, because the charter is like the constitution of your city. To add language to the city charter calling on the police department to, quote, eliminate the practice of unconstitutional stop and frisk consistent with judicial precedent, end quote. Now, protests erupted after Philadelphia police last month of October, fatally shot Walter Wallace Jr. And we have an update in that case also. So we'll go to, I was looking at the reporting from NBC Nightly News, because I monitor about 35 different news sources on a daily basis. So I'm read Associated Press, New York Times, Washington Post. If you look at the articles I post here on our fan page, the African History Network, you see I read a number of different news sources daily. Let's see. Okay, so protests erupted after Philadelphia police in October fatally shot Walter Wallace Jr., 27 years old, an African-American man, while responding to a call about a man armed with a knife. Now, police have said that officers ordered Walter Wallace Jr. to drop the knife several times, but that he continued to advance on them while holding it. Both officers fired their guns, striking Wallace in a shoulder and the chest, officials said. Now, let's look at the update in this case. Philadelphia police released body cam video of Walter Wallace shooting. And let's go to NBCnews.com and pull this up, see if we can see if they have an article here dealing with this also. We'll look at this. Okay, newly released body camera video is revealing what happened in the final moments before Philadelphia police shot and killed Walter Wallace Jr. last month. And let me see here. Is it okay? I think this is the article here. This is police. Okay, yeah. Philadelphia police released 911 calls, body camera video, and fatal shooting of Walter Wallace. Okay, so we'll post a link. This came out November 4th, 2020, posted at 10:18 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So it was Wednesday night that this reporting from NBC News came out. It is the first time the department has publicly released body-worn video from an officer involved shooting, the commissioner said. Okay, I'm going to post this link here for this article for you all to check this out. All right, now the video shows Wallace, a 27-year-old African-American man, outside a home and holding what appears to be a knife, a knife in hand. The officers repeatedly yell at Wallace to put the knife down as he walks around and then into the street. As Wallace moves in the direction of the officers, they fire multiple shots. Wallace then falls to the ground and his anguished mother rushes over to his body. Wallace's family has said he struggled with mental health issues and that they had called 911 to ask for an ambulance, not for police intervention. The officers involved have been assigned to restrictive duty pending the investigation, the department said. So that's from NBC Nightly News, from their newsletter, because I get newsletters, email newsletters all throughout the day. I get email updates all throughout the day from different news sources. And I just want to check some of. So we got the reporting from thehill.com dealing with coronavirus. And we're going to go to the Washington Post, and we're going to go to the coronavirus updates from the Washington Post in just a minute here. I wanted to complete the segment dealing with the election results, but let's I want to look at the rest of this article here from dealing with Walter Wallace Jr. Okay, so he was shot October 26 after officers responded to a call about a man armed with a knife, police said at the time. Wallace's family has previously said that he struggled with mental health issues, including bipolar disorder, and that they called 911 to request an ambulance in the hope that he would receive medical intervention. Request an ambulance in the hope that he would receive medical intervention. At a news conference Wednesday, ahead of the release of body camera video and 911 call audio, city officials warned that the materials were disturbing and said the family had been consulted before its release. Mayor Jim Kenney, mayor of Philadelphia, Mayor Jim Kenney said the video footage contains graphic and violent images and may be intense and traumatic for some to watch. But greater transparency is necessary in making meaningful changes in our city and to keep our offices, institutions, and departments accountable. Now, both the audio and video released on Wednesday, November 4th, were edited by the Philadelphia Police Department and approved by the Wallace family. Police Commissioner Danielle Outlaw said it was the first time the department had publicly released body-worn video from an officer-involved shooting. She also announced planned reforms in regard to mental health calls in partnership with the city's Department of Behavioral Health and Intellectual Disability Services. Okay, check out the rest of this article here from NBCnews.com. Philadelphia police released 911 calls, body camera video in fatal shooting of Walter Wallace. All right, let's look briefly here. I posted this article from the Washington Post. This was the USPS, U.S. Postal Service, processed 150,000 ballots after Election Day, jeopardizing thousands of votes. And I want to pull this one up here. Okay, how's everybody doing? Everybody share this broadcast on your social media platforms. Invite your friends to tune in also. Let's see here. Okay, the number of mailed ballots not delivered by November 3rd is expected to grow as more postal data is released in the coming days. So this was news breaking this evening from the Washington Post. This article was posted at 6:17 p.m. Eastern Standard Time from Jacob Bogage, Bogage, and Christopher Ingram. More than 150,000 ballots were caught in U.S. Postal Service processing facilities and not delivered by Election Day, agency data shows, including more than 12,000 ballots in 5 of the states that have yet to be called for either Donald Trump or Democratic challenger Joe Biden. Despite assurance from the U.S. Postal Service leaders that agency officials were conducting daily sweeps for misplaced ballots, the service acknowledged in a court filing Thursday, November 5th, that thousands of ballots had not been processed in time. The U.S. Postal Service acknowledged in a court filing on Thursday that thousands of ballots had not been processed in time, and that more ballots were processed Wednesday than on Election Day. More ballots were processed Wednesday than on Election Day. The number of mailed ballots the Postal Service did not deliver by election day is expected to grow as more data is released in the coming days. Some election experts worry such delays could run up against even more generous ballot acceptance windows that some states have granted. Okay, so this is some more incompetence. In several swing states, late ballots will still be counted as long as they were postmarked by election day and received by Friday, November 6th, according to state law. Let me repeat this. In several swing states, late ballots will still be counted as long as they were postmarked by election day and received by Friday, November 6th, according to state law. They include Nevada, where 4,518 ballots arrived after election day, as well as North Carolina, where it was 2,958 ballots that arrived after election day, and Pennsylvania, 3,439 ballots arrived after election day. But in other states, such as Arizona, where 864 ballots were delayed, and Georgia, where 853 ballots were delayed, votes that did not reach election officials by November 3rd will be disqualified. Votes that did not reach election officials by November 3rd will be disqualified. So that's based upon state law. Like I said before, you don't have a national presidential election. You really have 50 individual state elections. Different states have different laws based upon the laws that pass the state legislature, the state House of Representatives, and the state Senate, and then signed into law by a governor. All right, let's continue here. So the Postal Service had warned voters not to mail ballots within 1 week of the election. The Biden campaign changed its messaging to encourage voters to use drop boxes or vote in person to avoid mailing their ballots within 10 days of the election. This is what I was telling people here on my show. I told people don't put it in after certain date. Don't put it in the mail. Take it to your city clerk's office or where you have to take it, and take it and put it in the box, or vote in person early. Because that's what I did. I voted last Thursday. I voted in person, did early voting. It was still absentee. You fill out the form, all that stuff, but you go in person and do it. I was in and out in 25 minutes. And because I didn't want to send it through the mail, because I see what Donald Trump is doing, and U.S. Postmaster Louis DeJoy, who was a Trump campaign donor. I see what they're doing, so I ain't going for that. No, I told people go vote early in person, okay, to avoid that nonsense. So the Postal Service had warned voters not to mail ballots within 1 week of the election. The Biden campaign changed its messaging to encourage voters to use drop boxes or vote in person and avoid mailing their ballots within 10 days of the election. And let me, I want to pull up the live updates from NBC News also. Okay. So I have a lot of news service apps on my phone as well. Okay, let's continue here. I'm just checking for updates. Now, the Trump campaign's messaging on the topic was mixed. Donald Trump baselessly claimed mail-in voting was susceptible to fraud, though he and First Lady Melania Trump have voted by mail themselves in Florida, and the campaign late in the general election cycle courted supporters to vote by mail after seeing growing Democratic advantages. Under Postmaster General Louis DeJoy, a major Trump financier, is a Trump campaign donor, who took over the agency in June 2020. Elections had consequences. Trump put him in charge of the U.S. Postal Service. And one of the things that many Republicans are trying to do, like Senator Ron Johnson of Wisconsin, one of the things they've been trying to do for about the past 25 years is to break up the Postal Service in smaller parts and privatize the Postal Service. This has been one of their goals. And this is something that Louis DeJoy is believed that he's trying to expedite also. The breaking up of the Postal Service and the privatization of the Postal Service. In the Postal Service, if I remember correctly, and I heard different statistics on this, but if I remember correctly, I think the U.S. Postal Service has about 633,000 employees, and I want to double check that. I think it's about 633,000 employees and about 21. Well, there were 2019 496,934. Let's look at this. USPS.com, facts, USPS.com. There were 496,934 career employees in 2019. The number of non-career employees was 136,174. Total mail volume in 2019 was 142.6 billion pieces. So yeah, that's about 600,000 employees total. Well, close, maybe 633, right around there. Let's see. Facts.usps.com. 496,934 career employees. And the number of non-career employees, 136,000. So you're dealing with like over 600,000 employees, about 21% African American. Okay. When we look at the U.S. Postal Service. So we'll post this here as well. Okay, put that on the thread of the broadcast. All right, we've got Manaja. How you doing, Manaja in Detroit? Offset, ISIS, Lillette Burrows. Okay, they're watching also. African-American business owners, post the name of your business here on the thread of the broadcast. Email us at customer service at africanhistorynetwork.com, customer service at africanhistorynetwork.com. And we'll let you know how you can advertise with the African History Network. We can get you up and running in a day or so. And you can advertise on our nightly show. Okay. All right. So we have a couple of new advertisers also here. We have a few spots left on our nightly show. Sunday night show is all sold out. TheProfitRoom.com. So the stock market is surging. It anticipates Joe Biden being president, somebody who's stable, mentally stable. And TheProfitRoom.com is a stock market, trading, and education company. You may have seen the article blacknews.com had about them a year or so ago. They offer mentorship programs that are designed for beginners. They teach individuals how to create generational wealth through trading and investing in the financial markets. Now, they specialize in day trading and one-on-one mentorship, but they also provide educational stocks, options, futures, foreign exchange markets or Forex, capital preservation, and risk management. Visit their website, theprofitroom.com, theprofitroom.com. For more information, let them know you found out about this from the African History Network. All right, now the Pink Bakery, the pinkbakery.com wants to know, have you tasted the world famous No Frowny Brownie yet? Okay, if not, what are you waiting for? They are vegan free. They are vegan, gluten free, and free of the big 8 allergens. All right, visit their website, thepinkbakery.com, thepinkbakery.com, and they are the first Black owned big 8 allergen free baking mix company, and you can order the No Frowny Brownie mix today. Okay, let's continue here. All right, so check out the article here from USPS, from Washington Post, and with the U.S. Postal Service. Under Postmaster General Louis DeJoy, a major Trump financier who took over the agency in June, first-class mail delivery rates have steadily declined. First-class mail delivery rates have steadily declined, especially in urban areas that are bastions of Democratic voters. Louis DeJoy, Postmaster General Louis DeJoy said in public statements that facilitating an election in which a record 198 million Americans were eligible to vote by mail was his, quote, sacred duty, end quote, and that the agency was up to the task. But the Postal Service's summer struggles bled into election season almost immediately as Americans began voting in October. Now, on Wednesday, November 4th, 2020, the Postal Service processed 94.5% of ballots on time, an improvement over recent days, but below the 97% rate that postal and voting experts expect. Based on the agency's 1 to 3 day ballot processing window, voters would have mailed those ballots on Sunday or Monday. For the remaining 5.5%, or more than 8,000 of the ballots that took longer to process, now in the 9 polls spanning 5 states, Pennsylvania and race, the on-time rate was 84.6%. In the 9 postal districts spanning 5 states, Arizona, Nevada, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Georgia, that have yet to decide the presidential race, the on-time rate was 84.6%. That means roughly 15 out of every 100 ballots in processing plants were not sorted or not delivered on time. Okay, check out the rest of this article here from Washington Post. USPS processed 150,000 ballots after Election Day, jeopardizing thousands of votes. Okay, how you doing, Troy, in Michigan? Okay, we got Tiffany Lewis. How you doing, Tiffany? Burnett. Okay, all right. Everybody share this broadcast on your social media platforms. Okay, if we look at, let's look at the update on what's going on with coronavirus. So we see that NBCnews.com has the article, COVID-19 cases in U.S. break record for second day in a row. Let's look at the updates from, Washington Post also here. Let's see. Also, I'm going to post this article here as well. This is the one from Vanity Fair, the expose on Jared Kushner, how Jared Kushner's secret testing plan went poof in the air. This is from July 30th, 2020 by Catherine Eben, EBAN, for Vanity Fair. Shows his incompetence in handling the coronavirus pandemic also. All right, let's look at live updates. Okay, so according to the reporting from Washington Post, U.S. tops 116,000 cases, another record as health officials worry people are giving up. So depending upon what time they look at the numbers, it fluctuates. So the Hill.com, the reporting from the Hill.com said 118,000 new cases reported on Thursday, November 5th. Washington Post says 116,707. Okay. As 20 states saw their highest daily counts yet, and the number of fatalities nationwide from Jr. just a couple of days said, oh, in, was down to almost no, okay, no, maybe it's, but these are human beings over third consecutive day, 1,000 new reading. So today, Missouri in Missouri tested positive for coronavirus, ignored instructions to self-isolate, worked on election day, and has now died, according to officials in St. Charles County. Now, an apartment company owned in part by White House senior advisor, an apartment company owned in part by White House senior advisor Jared Kushner has filed to evict hundreds of families during the pandemic. Okay, we talked about that briefly. Let's go. I'm going to post this article here as well. This is from the Washington Post. We talked about this earlier in the show. Management company owned by Jared Kushner files to evict hundreds of families as moratoriums expire. White House advisors company Westminster Management and other landlords prepare to remove tenants behind on rent during the pandemic. Okay. And they show this picture of this sister, Tashika Booker, walks with her son, Cry, C-R-I-E, or Cree, I think it's Cry, C-R-I-E, who's 2 years old, at Owings Run, O-W-I-N-G-S, Owings Run, an apartment complex owned and operated by Jared Kushner's Westminster Management in Owings Mill, Maryland. So this article is from November 5th, 2020, Thursday, November 5th, 2020, posted at 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Westminster Management, an apartment company owned in part by White House senior advisor Jared Kushner, has submitted hundreds of eviction filings in court against tenants with past due rent during the pandemic, according to interviews with more than a dozen tenants and a review of hundreds of the company's filings. A state eviction moratorium currently bars Maryland courts from removing tenants from their homes, and a federal moratorium offers renters additional protection. But like other landlords around the country, Westminster has been sending letters to tenants threatening legal fees and then filing eviction notices in court, a first legal step toward removing tenants. Those notices are now piling up in local courthouses as part of a national backlog of tens of thousands of cases that experts warn could lead to a surge in displaced renters across the country as eviction bans expire and courts resume processing cases. I've been talking about this for months. On the other side of the coronavirus pandemic, it's going to be a massive number of evictions and foreclosures, and African Americans and Hispanics are going to bear the brunt of this. And we're going into winter, and you're going to have a massive number of African Americans being evicted and foreclosed on. Okay. Now, many of the Westminster tenants facing eviction live on low or middle incomes in modest apartments in the Baltimore area, according to tenants. Some of them told the Washington Post they fell behind on rent after losing jobs or wages due to the pandemic. Those facing eviction proceedings, once courts began hearing cases again, include a nurse who struggled financially during the pandemic, healthcare administrators, and a single mother who is currently unemployed. Yolanda Coates, C-O-A-T-E-S, who lives at a Westminster-owned property called Bonnie Ridge in Pikesville, Maryland, says she has kept her job at a local child care facility so far, but has occasionally fallen behind on rent. As recently as September 25th, Westminster charged her court fees in an ongoing eviction case that started last year, according to an email review by the Washington Post. Yolanda Coates said, if you don't pay before the 5th of the month, they still send out an eviction notice. Now, Tashika Booker, a resident of another Westminster property called Owings Run, says she used to work for an online education company. She lost her job in May and now receives a little more than $800 per month from unemployment insurance, but it's not enough to cover her $1,300 a month rent. Okay. Now, she was getting $800 a month from unemployment insurance, she was probably getting an additional $600 a week from federal unemployment insurance, which was $2,400 a month, until that expired July 31st, 2020. If she was receiving unemployment insurance, if she started receiving unemployment insurance before July 31st, she was probably getting that additional $600 a week. She said, quote, my bills are getting paid slowly but surely. It might not be on time, but I'm really in a better situation than a lot of other people, Tashika Booker said. She says she is looking for other ways to generate income, but October 8th, she said she received an email from the property manager saying, quote, we have filed on you with the District Court of Maryland, so court fees will be added to your account, end quote. For the moment, Maryland courts cannot order people removed from their homes. The state's moratorium on evictions was renewed October 29th, 2020, preventing cases from proceeding. The state's moratorium was renewed October 29th. Okay, now a Center for Disease Control and Prevention ban through the end of this year allows tenants in many cases to file paperwork to halt the process. Now, Westminster, which is a unit of the Kushner companies, issued a statement from Kushner Company's general counsel, Christopher W. Smith, saying the company was fully compliant with state and federal eviction bans, including ones approved by President Trump through the CARES Act and the CDC, Center for Disease Control and Prevention. Quote, Westminster has comprehensively abided by all federal, state, and local orders regarding residential tenancies during the COVID-19 pandemic and will faithfully continue to do so, the statement said. Okay. What about having compassion for people? That's what I don't understand. But okay. Well, I guess they don't have any. I guess they should have tried harder. All right. So check out that article from Washington Post. We just posted the link. Management company owned by Jared Kushner files to evict hundreds of families as moratoriums expire. All right, let's look at the so we've got that. Let's look at the we dealt with COVID-19. We see COVID-19 is also ravaging. I want to go back to the updates on COVID-19 from Washington Post. Okay. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome H. Powell said Thursday that the recent rise in coronavirus cases in the United States and around the world is, quote, particularly concerning, end quote, and could put a damper on the ongoing economic recovery. Well, the economic recovery is barely taking place. An Associated Press analysis found that 93% of U.S. countries, of U.S. counties, I should say, with the highest number of new coronavirus cases per capita voted to re-elect Donald Trump because they're dumbasses. And an Associated Press analysis found that 93% of the U.S. counties with the highest number of new coronavirus cases per capita voted to re-elect Donald Trump. Okay, so we're currently at 9.6 million coronavirus cases. right at about 234,000 deaths. No region of the country is being spared from the onslaught of infections. The 20 states reporting record single-day increases on Thursday, November 5th, span New England, the Midwest, the Great Plains, and the Pacific Northwest. Those witnessing the most dramatic increases over the past week include Maine, Iowa, Colorado, Minnesota, and Nebraska. Okay, so check out this. Check this out here. Check out these updates from the Washington Post dealing with coronavirus. And then they have an article here I want to look at. This just popped up dealing with coronavirus and the racial wealth gap. And I have another one from National Public Radio from September. And I've been meaning to talk about it on the show. Haven't had time to. So next couple of days we'll deal with this. Okay, yeah, this is okay. I think this is from a similar report. This is from September 28th, 2020. It was one of the suggested articles to read, but that was at the bottom of the live updates. Wealth gaps between Black and white families persisted even at the height of the economic expansion. Wealth gaps between Black and white families persisted even at the height of the economic expansion. In 2019, the median and mean wealth of African-American families was less than 15% of white families, according to the 2019 survey of consumer finance. So all this ties into laws, policies, things like this. So when we went through and looked at the policies of Joe Biden's plan, and we looked at his plan to empower Black America, his we looked at his Lift Every Voice plan, okay? And pages 2 through 11 deal with economic empowerment for African Americans. All right. And the first thing he did was talk about coronavirus. All right. All this ties into policies. All this ties into closing the racial wealth gap. Okay. Elections have consequences. This is why this let's just look at this briefly here, and we'll post a link. We ain't gonna spend too much time on this because I got to get out of here because I got to be back here. Well, I got to do rolling show at 6 p.m. Friday, and I got to be back here at 11 p.m. to do this all over again. But let's look at this quickly here. Politics is the legal distribution of scarce wealth, power, and resources, and the writing of laws, statutes, ordinances, amendments, and treaties, their adoption, interpretation, and enforcement. Politics impacts every aspect of our lives, from the water we drink to the air we breathe to the food we eat to the economy that our African-American owned businesses operate within. So in 2016, when you had people saying, oh, we don't need to vote, we just need to do economic empowerment and invest in the stock market and do like the Asians. Okay, I said, that's good. My degree's in business administration. I understand this better than most people. I taught entrepreneurship for 7 years. I said, that's good, but we also need to vote for a president whose policies will protect the economy that our businesses operate within. See, a lot of people don't understand that concept. Okay. So when we go through this, so first thing they do is talk about coronavirus. Okay. And how it's devastated African Americans. And because Donald Trump doesn't want to deal with coronavirus and his 2-page Black agenda, the Fool's Gold plan that he called the Platinum Plan. But we look here, advance the economic mobility of African Americans and close the racial wealth gap. This is the first thing they deal with. Advance the economic mobility of African Americans and close the racial wealth and income gaps. Invest in African American businesses, entrepreneurs, ensure access to capital, all this stuff. So take a look at this. We're going to post the link once again. We'll post a link to this. This is just like page 1 or 2. All right. Pages 2 through 11 deal with economic empowerment for African Americans and creating wealth, closing a racial wealth gap. All right. Expand new markets tax credit make the program permanent and double community development financial institutions, CDFI funding, improve and expand the Small Business Administration programs that most effectively support African-American owned businesses, which the highlights very quickly, increase opportunities for African-American owned businesses to obtain or participate in federal contracts, increase funding for the Minority Business Development Agency, which was created under the Richard Nixon administration, the MBDA. Okay, because the Trump administration, every annual budget, every fiscal year budget that the White House submits to Congress to approve, the Trump administration is trying to cut funding for the MBDA. The Trump administration has for a 75% cut in the MBDA's budget. Biden will protect and call for increased funding for it. Protect small and disadvantaged businesses from federal and state contract bundling, which often locks out African-American owned smaller firms from effectively bidding on procurement contracts. Biden will build on the anti-bundling provisions of the Small Business Jobs Act of 2010. The Small Business Jobs Act of 2010, by having the Office of Management and Budget, the SBA, Small Business Administration, the MBDA, Minority Business Development Agency, conduct a government-wide review of existing contract bundling to determine whether agencies are following existing rules and whether agencies have the ability to further ensure small business participation in federal and state procurement opportunities. Okay, so what is bundling? So what that means is, when they talk about bundling, under the Obama administration, what they did was, when you had a lot of federal contracts and there were different components to the federal contracts, different services that were offered in one contract or something like that, they would break that up into smaller contracts to make it easier for African-American owned businesses that oftentimes are smaller, have less capital than white-owned businesses, to make it easier for them to bid on these smaller contracts and get these contracts, as opposed to bundling these contracts, putting them all together in one and making it harder for African-American owned businesses to bid and get these contracts. Okay. See, Trump reversed that. Also, there were 192 executive orders that Trump has signed. Okay. Most of those Biden has to reverse. And a lot of them he talks about here in his plan, but those have to be reversed. So when we look at what's in this for African Americans, we need to look at the policies being proposed, and these are things that were pushed for by African Americans. Also, if we look at this article, and I hope it's coming up here, let's switch over to it very quick. We've talked about all this before, so if you watch our show, you know this. If this is your first time, maybe you haven't heard this information before, so be sure to follow us on our fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network, and our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep. This is an article from blackpressusa.com. Look at the date. This is from May 5th, 2020, because Biden's plan to empower Black America came out May 4th, 2020. Okay, May 4th, 2020. This came out before Ice Cube's contract with Black America. This was written by Stacey Brown. We talk about it a lot. In the article, it talked about, in this article, they cited the Joe Biden, and it said, Biden said the plan reflects many months of work and feedback from local elected officials, activists, organizations. Let me see, this is coming up. Oh, okay. Bring this up. Biden said the plan reflects many months of work and feedback from local elected officials, activists, organizations, practitioners, policy experts, strategists, and young people. Okay, go read this full thing. This is what we hold him accountable to, and Senator Kamala Harris, and more. This is what we have to push through, not just through the White House through executive orders and policy changes, but also through both chambers of the legislative branch of government, because 70 to 80% of what the president wants to do has to pass through the U.S. House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate. So even if Republicans maintain control of the Senate, and it's not 100% certain yet because you're going to have two, it appears they're going to be two runoff elections in Georgia. It appears for the U.S. Senate. It appears there are going to be two runoff elections in Georgia. And so it's not 100% certain that Republicans will maintain control of the Senate. It's possible, but you still have some elections that have to be called. So we'll have to see. If there's a 50-50 tie, in the U.S. Senate, then who gets the tie-breaking vote? If there's a 50-50 tie, if it's 50 Democrats, including the two independents, Senator Angus King and Senator Bernie Sanders, they usually caucus with the Democrats. If there's a 50-50 tie, who gets the tie-breaking vote? The vice president, Madam Vice President Kamala Harris. This is an example why elections have consequences. If you watch the confirmation hearing of clueless Betsy DeVos to become Secretary of Miseducation. Now, Betsy DeVos is from Michigan. We knew about her before the rest of America knew about her. We knew how dumb she was. Dumb as a doorknob. Has no business. She has no business being the president of the PTA. Okay. I watched her confirmation hearing. She didn't know a damn thing about education. One. Two, if you watch the vote that took place to actually confirm her, I pay attention to this. There was something strange that happened when they were planning when to actually take the vote. What happened was the confirmation vote for Senator Jefferson Beauregard Sessions III of Alabama, for him to be confirmed as Attorney General, his confirmation vote was supposed to take place before Betsy DeVos' confirmation vote. But what happened? Senator Majority Leader Moscow Mitch McConnell, who controls the Senate because Republicans are in the majority in the Senate, and the Senate Majority Leader controls the Senate. He pushed the date of Jeff Sessions' confirmation vote. He pushed that back to the week after Betsy DeVos. Well, why was that? Because Mitch McConnell can count. He knew they only had 50 votes to confirm Betsy DeVos. Jeff Sessions was one of those 50 votes. He knew if they had Jeff Sessions' confirmation hearing, the confirmation vote before Betsy DeVos, then Jeff Sessions would be confirmed as Attorney General. He would automatically be sworn in as Attorney General, and he could not vote for Betsy DeVos because they only have 50 votes to confirm Betsy DeVos. Jeff Sessions was one of them. So what did they do? They moved Jeff Sessions' confirmation vote to the week after Betsy DeVos. They voted for DeVos. It was 50-50. 50 Republicans, 48 Democrats, 2 independent. Well, it was 50-50. Okay, there's 2 independents, and I think it was either 48. They may have had. I think they had one Republican who dissented and voted with the Democrats. Okay, so then it's a 50-50 tie. Who got the tie-breaking vote? Vice President Mike Pence. So Betsy DeVos was confirmed 51-50. See, they're playing grandmaster level chess. Most people, because like when I do lectures across the country, I ask people about that. They did not see what happened. I saw what happened because I remember when they announced when Betsy DeVos' confirmation hearing was taking place, and I said, "Wait a second, Jeff Sessions is supposed to take place first." And then they said Mitch McConnell changed the schedule and moved Jeff Sessions back a week. I said, "Oh, I know what they're doing. We don't understand how the game is played. Game can of oil. I know what's consequences. Let me go quick look here. Washington. The each update. Okay, count 17 news down to 1,797. Okay, they talk about the Georgia Senate runoff races. The battle for control of the Senate headed into a 2-month overtime as Georgia prepares to host 2 runoff elections January 5th, 2021, that are likely to determine which party controls the chamber, with the potential to dramatically alter the arc of a new Democratic and Joe Biden wins the presidency. As the dust settled on almost every race, Republicans have secured 48 seats in next year's Senate and hold steady leads in 2 contests, but need to win at least one of the 2 races in Georgia to land a clear majority of 51 seats. That leaves Democrats with a caucus of 48 senators so far, one last chance to reclaim the majority by trying to secure a double victory in what used to be a conservative Republican stronghold of Georgia. If successful, and if Biden secures the White House, the 50-50 Senate would tilt to the Democrats once Senator Kamala Harris is sworn in and becomes Madam Vice President Kamala Harris. All right. Okay, I'm just looking at these updates, see if there's anything important here. Okay, and I want to make sure I get to all the stories, all the topics I had laid out. If we look quickly here at the article from Washington Post that I mentioned, and okay, I want to make sure I give you these links here. We give you the link to Black Press USA. Follow the National Newspaper Publishers Association on Facebook. The National Newspaper Publishers Association on Facebook. Okay, that is an African-American news wire. It's an association of about 260 Black-owned newspapers. National Newspaper Publishers Association, and their website is blackpressusa.com. So this article I just posted is from blackpressusa.com. Okay, Cynthia said, "Teach, I'm learning a ton between you, Roland, and Dr. Claude Anderson." Dr. Claude Anderson is one of my teachers. I've known him for years. I interviewed him a number of times. I just talked to him October 17th. We talked for about an hour. We argued the whole time. When he and I talk, we argue like an old married couple, seriously. Because I disagree with him. He'll call me all type of names, cuss me out, stuff like that. At the end of the day, when I press him on it, he has to admit that I'm right. 99% of the time, when I press him, I'm like, "Doc, you know that's bullshit, right?" And then I press him on it. He has to admit I'm correct. So, and I'll be on Roland's show tomorrow. I'm on every Friday. And actually, when I used to guest host Roland's nationally syndicated radio show in 2016, that's how we connected. When I was on the Empowerment Radio Network, I brought Dr. Claude Anderson on Roland's show and interviewed him. A lot of people don't know that. I had Dr. Claude Anderson on as a guest on Roland's radio show. Okay. I also had Dr. David Imhotep on, the author of the book, The First Americans Were Africans, Documented Evidence. Okay, so we got COVID. 751,000 people filed for first-time unemployment benefits last week. NBC News and Washington Post reported on this, as well as New York Times. Around 751,000 people filed for initial jobless claims last week, a lower total than the prior week's revised total of 758,000 and an indication of a sluggish but steady workforce recovery. Okay, now you still got about 10 million people at least who are unemployed. The latest data confirms, this is the one from today. Okay, the latest data confirms 10 straight weeks where the weekly total has fallen below 1 million after months of historic highs that peaked at a record 7 million first-time unemployment claims in the spring. Continuing claims, which show ongoing unemployment totals, also trended lower last week after hitting a high of almost 25 million earlier this week. Okay, 700,000 is still crazy. Week after week after week after week. This is like the 30th straight month, basically over 700,000. However, this data could also mean that claimants have used up their allotted weeks of regular state unemployment and moved on to a different compensation program. Thursday data comes ahead of the closely watched monthly jobs report from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, which is expected to show that the economy gained around 600,000 jobs in the month of October. Around 22 million jobs have been lost as a result of the pandemic, with just over 10 million jobs yet to be recovered. Okay, so it's just over 10 million jobs that still have to be recovered. It's expected that half of these jobs that have been lost are not coming back. We know that 41% of African-American owned businesses, okay, have gone out of business as of April. Okay, Forbes.com had this article, small business black. Forbes.com had this article that broke this down, looking at the report from the New York Federal Reserve. Forbes.com, the COVID-19 crisis has wiped out nearly half of black small businesses. This was as of April 2020. This was as of April 2020. It's not October. It's probably at least 50% now. Let's look at this quickly here. You've heard me talk about this before. We'll read this full article. The COVID-19 crisis has wiped out nearly half of black small businesses. This is by Pedro Nicolasi da Costa. This is from, what's the date on this? August 10th, 2020. It's not October. Nearly half. Let's blow this up and then playing the videos. All this. Everybody see this. Go read this article. We'll give you the link. Nearly half of black small businesses have been wiped out by the end of April 2020 as the pandemic ravaged minority communities disproportionately, according to a report from the New York Federal Reserve. Black-owned businesses were more than twice as likely to shutter as their white counterparts, the report found. Quote, nationally, representative data on small businesses indicate that the number of active business owners fell by 22% from February to April 2020, the largest drop on record. Okay, nationally representative data on small businesses indicate that the number of active business owners fell by 22%. Quote, black businesses experienced the most acute decline with drop. Latino owners fell by 32% and Asian business owners dropped. You know, African figure has likely. The pandemic has dragged on with a resurgence of cases this summer that has taken the country's number of infections to a world record of over 5 million. Well, hell, it was 5 million when this article came out. It's 9.6 million now. I'm telling you, probably at least 50% of Black-owned businesses have been wiped out. So in 2016, when people were saying we don't need to vote, we just need to do economic empowerment and invest in the stock market, I said, that's good, but you need to vote also because you need a president who's going to have economic policies to protect the economy that your Black-owned business operates within and depends upon, so your ass stays in business. Otherwise, you're going to have a grand opening and a grand closing, because most people's businesses operate based upon the premise that customers have money to spend with you, so you stay in business. At least, I mean, that's what we learned in business school when I went to business school. Maybe it's changed now. You know, maybe you operate based upon the premise that people don't have to have money to spend with you. I don't know. So, but most businesses operate based upon that premise. All right, so read that from Forbes.com. And then we saw the, okay, I gave you the one. Management company owned by Jared Kushner files to evict hundreds of families as moratorium expires. He's going to catch some hell on that after he told Black people, you got to want to be successful. Then check this one out here. This is from September from the Washington Post. And I saw another one from National Public Radio that I had not had a chance to talk about. We may talk about this on another show, but I just want to give you this one since we discussed it. So this all ties into economics, ties into the wealth gap. Pages 2 through 11 of Biden's plan to empower Black America that a lot of people haven't read. 2 through 11 deals with economic empowerment, wealth creation, closing the wealth gap. It's not perfect. It's a floor, not a ceiling. But these are all policies we hold them accountable for, push through the White House, push through Congress, and push for more. This period of time right here, this election right here, and the first 2 years of Biden's term in office, Biden-Harris administration, the first 2 years, and especially the last 2 years, because Democrats have to maintain control of the House of Representatives in the 2022 election and take back the Senate. So they control the House, the Senate, and the White House. So any bills that could not get passed in the first 2 years of the Biden-Harris administration, they can get passed in the second 2 years. This 4-year period of time needs to be a third reconstruction for African Americans. This 4-year period of time needs to be a third reconstruction for African Americans. Is the African American vote and organizing like Stacey Abrams and Latasha Brown and Black Voters Matter and all the people, African American men and women all across the country, and then the African American youth who were poll workers, so that older people don't have to expose themselves. Older people who are normally poll workers don't have to expose themselves to coronavirus. NBCnews.com had an article about this, about how African American youth across the country volunteered to be poll workers, okay, to protect older people from coronavirus. All these policies that we fought to put into agendas, we got to push all this stuff through. Just like Republicans pushed through and rammed through the confirmation vote for Amy Coney Barrett to the U.S. Supreme Court. Okay. And then she was confirmed 9 days before the November 3rd election. These 4 years, this needs to be a third reconstruction. Okay. Where we have transformational policies that get passed. Some is going to take place the first 2 years. It may not be as much as the last two of the administration if Democrats can take back control of the Senate in the last 2 years. You can get more passed through. Okay. But this is critical. The other side of the election is holding them accountable and pushing all this stuff through and getting these policies put into place. So let's look at this. Wealth gaps. Oh, damn. We got to get the hell out of here. Wealth gaps between Black and white families persisted even at the height of the economic expansion. I'm still waiting for the economy to come roaring back. Like Jared Kushner said it was going. He said the economy, we're going to be rocking by July. Okay. Last year, the median and mean median is a statistical measure where 50% of the population is above a particular point, 50% is below the point. Mean is the average. Last year, the mean and median wealth of Black families was less than 15% that of white families, according to the 2019 survey of consumer finances. This is from September 28th, 2020 by Rachel Siegel. Even during the boom time final stretch of a record economic expansion, even during the boom time financial stretch of a record economic expansion, the typical, and let's see, what is this here? Okay, here you go. The typical white family had 8 times the wealth of a typical Black family in 2019 and 5 times the wealth of a typical Hispanic family. A sobering reminder of the country's vast inequality before those gaps widened with the start of the coronavirus pandemic. Okay, a sobering reminder of the country's vast inequality before the gaps widened with the start of the coronavirus economy. Last year, in 2019, the median wealth of Black families was less than 15% that of white families, according to the 2019 survey of consumer finances released by the Federal Reserve on Monday. This was in September. White families had median family wealth of $188,200 compared to that of Black families, which was $24,100. Okay, a median wealth. The extensive detail is a detailed look at 2000. The extensive survey is a detailed look at 2019 American household finances right before the recession began and millions of jobs were wiped away, offering yet another snapshot of an economy that worked best for white Americans and those at the top. Those disparities laid the foundation for a recession that has been painfully unequal, with the worst of the crisis over the wealthiest Americans, with the worst of the crisis over for the wealthiest Americans, while others scramble to make rent or pay for groceries. Now, we just talked about, we talked about this yesterday. 8 million Americans have slipped into poverty as of May 2020 because of this coronavirus economy. NBCnews.com reported October 16, 2020, 8 million Americans slipped into poverty amid coronavirus pandemic, new study says. Researchers looked at the devastating financial effect the pandemic has had on Americans, with Blacks, Latinos, and children faring the worst. Read this article here from NBCnews.com. 8 million Americans slipped into poverty amid coronavirus pandemic, new study says. This is from October 16th. All this is connected. All this is ties to policy. And this is what happens when you have somebody incompetent in the White House who doesn't understand economic policies, who gets idiotic economic advisors like Larry Kudlow, okay, and who doesn't read their presidential daily briefings. Because if he had and understood what he was reading, he would have known there were warnings about coronavirus in his presidential daily briefings in November and December 2019. This is what happens when you have somebody who has declared war on the scientists for the past 3 years. This is the result of that. These are the consequences of that. Okay, let's go back to this quickly here. So those disparities laid the foundation for a recession that has been painfully unequal, with the worst of the crisis over for the wealthiest Americans, while others scramble to make rent or pay for groceries. Last year, for example, the typical white family had $50,600 in equities they could tap into in an emergency, compared to just $14,400 for the typical Black family and $14,900 for a Hispanic family. These gaps in emergency savings are particularly relevant in light of the COVID-19 pandemic and associated job losses, because the 2019 survey of consumer finances, because the 2019 survey of consumer finances data were collected just before the onset of the pandemic, these gaps in savings suggest large disparities in families' ability to weather the pandemic, end quote, according to a Federal Reserve staff research note attached to the survey. At the same time, families near the bottom of the income and wealth spectra saw substantial gains in their median and mean net worth between 2016 and 2019. Families near the bottom of the income and wealth spectra saw substantial gains in their median and mean net worth between 2016 and 2019. As the unemployment rate ticked down to 3.5% by the end of 2019, the benefits of a tight labor market were finally reaching communities still climbing back from the Great Recession. The last time the Fed conducted this extensive survey was in 2016. Okay. The current recession has put sharp focus on how the Federal Reserve can narrow persistent racial and economic gaps and rebuild an economy that does not leave marginalized communities behind. Build back better. That's what we have to do. Build back better. But it's unclear how exactly the Fed can use its broad-based tools, be it setting interest rates or hitting an inflation target, to mitigate the country's racial inequality. Low interest rates, for example, can reduce unemployment and often boost the stock market and asset prices, but those benefits can disproportionately accrue to white Americans who are more likely to hold investments. Now, in 2019, about 53% of families own stocks, a slight uptick from 2016, the survey showed, but only about 31% of families in the bottom half of the income distribution held stocks in 2019. For comparison, about 70% of families in the upper middle income group held stock, and more than 90% of families in the top decile held stock. Okay, check out the rest of this article. We'll post a link here. Wealth gaps between Black and white families persisted even at the height of the economic. Washington Post, September 28th, 2020, by Rachel Siegel. Okay. So let's post this link here. Check out that full article. And this is one of the reasons why the bill that was passed in the House of Representatives in July 2019 to raise the federal minimum wage to $15 an hour by the year 2025. It passed the House of Representatives. Okay, this is why it has to pass the Senate. It's being blocked in the Senate. Okay, raise the federal minimum wage from $7.25 an hour to $15 an hour. Now, that's not a ceiling. $15 an hour is not a ceiling. That's a floor. We're not talking about people getting rich on $15 an hour. But when you do that, when you raise the federal minimum wage from $7.25 an hour to $15 an hour, it will lift about 40 million people out of poverty. Okay, it'll lift about 40 million people out of poverty. And then let's see here. The last two articles, and we're gonna get out of here. If we look at Box.com, we've talked about this last week sometime. Let's see here. Let's bring this up. This one. This talks about in 2019, Democrat. Now, I'm neither Democrat nor Republican, but I'm also not stupid. I study policy, and I see whose policies are most beneficial for African Americans. I see who keeps blocking those policies. House Democrats have passed nearly 400 bills. Trump and Republicans are ignoring them. This is from November 29, 2019. Legislative paralysis gripped Capitol Hill well before impeachment started. Okay. This is from Vox.com. There were 433 bills that Democrats passed in 2019 in the House of Representatives. 80% die in the Senate. They talk. Here's a list of major bills in the House passed since January 2019. They deal with health care, civil rights, Paycheck Fairness Act, which is important. Check that one out. Also, I think they have it listed here. Raising the federal minimum wage, raising the wage act. I think that's it. HR 987, other major legislation. I think that's it. But they passed a bill to raise the federal minimum wage to $15 an hour. Passed the House, stuck in the Senate. Here's why that's so important. Here's one reason why it's so important, not the only reason. When we talk about Black women's equal pay day, you've heard me talk about that before. The average African-American woman makes 61 cents for every dollar that the average white male makes. It takes the average African-American woman 20 months to make the same amount of money that the average white male makes in 12 months. Okay. African-American men make about 79 cents on every dollar that the average white male makes. Let's go to this one here from blackenterprise.com. This is going to be it. Let's see, switch over here. Read this full article. Black women lose out over $1 million in their careers thanks to the wage gap. You've heard me talk about this before. Black women lose out over $1 million in their careers thanks to the wage gap. Now, this is from October 17th, 2019 from blackenterprise.com. A Black woman will lose out on $946,120 over a 40-year career if she continues to make 61 cents on the dollar that every white man earns due to the wage gap analysis by the National Women's Law Center show. Now, this is real money. This is the result of policies, laws, racism. Racism is a race. Racism don't have nothing to do with not liking people, calling people racial epithets, calling people names, things like that. No, racism is a system of advantage and privilege distributed based upon race. Racism occurs when one race of people control the majority of the wealth, power, resources, benefits, privileges, land, access to opportunity, access to education, jobs, healthcare, media, marketing, etc. And they use that to marginalize, subordinate, and do harm to another race of people. A Black woman will lose out on $946,120 over a 40-year career if she continues to make 61 cents on the dollar that the average white man earns due to the wage gap. Quote, assuming that, man, can I close out some of these videos? Maybe not. What the hell? All right. Assuming, hold on. Let's stop this one. All right. Assuming that she and her white non-Hispanic male counterpart begin work at age 20, a Black woman would have to work until she is age 86 to catch up to what a white non-Hispanic man has been paid by age 60, the press release states. Assuming that she and her white non-Hispanic male counterpart begin work at age 20, the average African-American woman would have to work until she is age 86 to make the same amount of money that the average white male makes by age 60. The National Women's Law Center found that Black women face even larger pay disparity in certain states. In the state of Louisiana, Black women are paid on average 47 cents for every dollar their white non-Hispanic counterpart makes, which is the worst state for Black women's wage equality. 47 cents. On average is 61 cents. I think it may have gone up to 62 cents for the year 2020, but in Louisiana it's 47 cents. Okay. Quote, there's a significant racial wealth gap in America, and Black women's wage gap certainly plays a role in it, said Emily Martin, Vice President of Education and Workplace Justice. For many Black women, the cost of the lifetime wage gap comes close to $1 million. And in some states, it's more. It's time for the U.S. Senate to follow the lead of the House of Representatives and pass the Paycheck Fairness Act. Women and their families literally can't wait any longer. So that's when you lose out $1 million over a 40-year career, that's less money that you have to spend with African-American owned businesses, buy property, buy homes, invest in the stock market, make investments, etc. This is real. This is the result of laws, policies, the wage gap, etc. Okay, these are things that have to be addressed during this third Reconstruction. First Reconstruction, 1865, 1877, after the Civil War ends. Second Reconstruction, the Civil Rights Movement. This is going to be a third Reconstruction. There's a significant wealth gap. Okay, and then this one right here. This is extremely important. Okay, advanced education among African-American women has not been shown to lower the wage gap. Advanced education among African-American women has not been shown to lower the wage gap. In fact, the gap is largest for the most educated African-American women. Doctorate degree holders who are African-American women tend to make 60% of what their white male counterparts make. Let me repeat this. I'm not against sisters having doctorate degrees, but we got to address this wage gap for African-American women and African-American men, but it's more persistent for African-American women. Doctorate degree holders who are African-American women tend to make 60% of what their white male counterparts make. Quote, Black women have the highest student loan debt of any racial or ethnic group. For an undergraduate degree, the average African-American woman carries nearly $30,400 in debt compared to $19,500 for white men. The wage gap lessens Black women's ability to pay off educational debt, creating an additional barrier to saving money that could be used to buy a home, start a business, or used for emergencies, the report said. This is real. Same thing applies to African-American men. Okay. African-American men carry more student loan debt as well. All right. Than white people. And when we're making about 79 cents for every dollar that the average white male makes, we're trying to pay back student loan debt. Okay. We want to buy a house or what have you. Okay. That impacts us as well. So these are all policies. These are all issues that have to be addressed through policy, through laws. All right. So check out this article here from blackenterprise.com. Black women lose out over $1 million in their careers thanks to the wage gap. This is by Justin Barton from October 17th, 2019. For blackenterprise.com. All right. Hey, if you all like this type of information, you can donate to the African History Network, $ the AHN Show through Cash App, $ the AHN Show through Cash App, and then also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN Show, paypal.me/the AHN Show. Because it takes a lot to do these shows and be here 6 nights a week now instead of 1 night a week. Normally we just did Sundays, but starting October 12th, we're on 6 nights a week, Monday through Friday, 11 p.m. to 12 midnight. And we keep going over for some reason. And then we're still on Sundays, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We broadcast on 9:10 a.m. the Superstation WFDF here in Detroit, and also on our social media. And week instead of 1 night a week. And through PayPal also, if you want to set up for a recurring donation, a monthly donation, you can do that also. If you want to advertise with the African History Network, email us at customerservice@africanhistorynetwork.com. Customerservice@africanhistorynetwork.com. You can advertise on our nightly show, and we can get you up and running in a day or so. In African American business owners, post name of your business here on the thread of the broadcast also. Okay. All of my DVD lectures are available at our website, africanhistorynetwork.com, africanhistorynetwork.com. And we have my presentation, 6 Principles of Political Self-Defense, Understanding How Laws and Policies Impact the Economic Conditions of African Americans. 6 Principles of Political Self-Defense. And then we have a lot of my DVDs and bundle packs also. And then we have the bundle pack, The Africans Who Were Here Before Columbus. The Africans Who Were Here Before Columbus. And this is it's like an 8 DVD bundle pack, includes my double lecture with Dr. David Imhotep, who wrote the book, The First Americans Were Africans, Documented Evidence. How you doing, Sherry? Also my presentation that I did with Professor Kabahaya Watha Kamene, one of my teachers. We dealt with the African presence, African presence in the Mississippi Valley in early America, something like that. It's from like 2013. It's a 4-hour lecture we did. Include some other presentations in there also. Okay. That's on sale $50. It's like an 8 DVD bundle pack. All right. Look, hey, we have to get out of here. We'll be back Friday. And look out for me on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Also, we share his daily digital show on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network. I'm on the panel every Friday. And he's on 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time live Monday through Friday. Okay, follow him on his Facebook page, Roland S. Martin, and on YouTube at Martin, also on YouTube. Remember, at the African History Network, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right now it's corrects wrong behavior. What you do for yourself, what you do to yourself, and what you allow other people to do to you and get away with is based upon what you think about yourself. Right now it's corrects wrong behavior. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever. We'll talk to you tomorrow night.